The Jaipur bookmark reflects the core values of the publishing industry, and it brings together some of the greatest publishing professionals from around the world.
जयपुर बुकमार्क एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ पे कि बिजनेस को समझने का एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलता है. सो आई थिंक JBM इज़ समथिंग विच इज़ फैंटास्टिक एंड पीपल हु डोंट नो अबाउट इट, उनको आना चाहिए, उनको इसका हिस्सा बनना चाहिए.
Jaipur Bookmark. Come and celebrate literature, meet authors, agents, publishers. Join us at the Jaipur Bookmark.
In these times during COVID, when we're all sitting at home, it's sort of like a ray of light that we get to watch these amazing sessions when we can't all be together. It certainly brightens up my evenings.
आज पेंडेमिक में हम डिजिटली जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल कर रहे हैं और मुझे लगता है कि हमारे सामने श्रोता नहीं है, हम आपस में बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उस फील को, उस उमंग को महसूस कर सकते हैं कि हजारों लाखों लोग हमसे जुड़े हुए हैं, हमको सुन रहे हैं और कहीं ना कहीं कोई एक सार्थक हस्तक्षेप हो रहा है.
People who came online to view and listen to our incredible speakers from across the world, we were able to continue in our tradition of ensuring the free flow of knowledge and information.
On behalf of our festival directors, advisors, and my colleagues at Team Bookmarks, we welcome you all to the 7th Festival Directors Roundtable of 2021. Jaipur Bookmark is an important B2B segment aimed at developing and nurturing the business of books and literary and art festivals across the world. JBM has hosted a Festival Directors Roundtable every year for the past 4 years, where festival directors from around the world exchange ideas on how festivals continue to forefront the fight for freedom of expression and ideas. They share their stories, challenges, and learnings in the fight to protect this much-needed space. Over 100 festival directors from around 27 countries have been part of the Festival Directors Roundtable in the past years. This year, the digital medium has offered us the opportunity of hosting the entire series around that. We present today, Festivals are repositories of local talent, history, and the future. Ameena Saiyid, Brenda Miller, Kathrin, Groon, Mita, Kapur in conversation with Sanjoy. Festivals are repositories of local talent, history, and the future. The lockdown and the resulting work from home has launched 1 million new books. Festival needs to look towards local talent, create a platform for their work, and in doing so, explore local history and crystal gaze into the future to bring in new thinking and solutions to age-old local issues, leading festival directors to deconstruct and discuss ideas. Introducing our first speaker, Ameena Saiyid. Ameena OBE, SI Knight of Arts and Letters, found a women-owned startup, Lightstone Publishers, of which she's the managing director. She was MD of Oxford University Press for 30 years and is the first woman in Pakistan to become the head of multinational company and president of the Overseas Investors Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She began the Movement of Literature Festival in Pakistan with the Karachi Literature Festival in 2010. She founded the Adab Festival and is co-founder of Children's Literature Festival. She's on boards of IVL Healthcare, Kash Foundation, Quaid-e-Azam Museum, Habib University, Sindh Government Curriculum Council, Institute of Business Management, Pakistan International Film Festival, and Catalyst Labs. She's a member of the Federal Education Minister's Search Committee for the Selection of Scholars on Pakistan Chairs Abroad, a member of the Foreign Ministers Committee of Arts and Culture and trustee of the Wikimedia Education Foundation UK, which gives scholarships to Pakistani students to study at Oxford and Cambridge universities. Our next speaker, Brenda Miller, is a fine artist by profession. Brinda has been with Ghoda Association almost since its inception. Presently, she is Honorable Chairperson of KGA. She is involved in heritage restoration projects in and around the Art District of Mumbai, which hosts the only multicultural festival of its kind in India, the Ghoda Arts Festival. Our next speaker, Kathrin Groon, is the Director of PR and Communication at Frankfurt Book Fair. She joined Frankfurt Book Fair in 2009 after working as head of press at the German Film Museum, Film Institute, and at various publishers. She earned her MA degree in American Studies, Modern Literature, and Comparative Literature at the University of Bonn. Mita Kapur is the founder and CEO of Saiyid, India's leading literary consultancy. Her first book, The F Word, is a food book, memoir, and travelogue. She has edited Chilies and Porridge, Writing Food, an anthology of essays on food. As a freelance journalist, she writes regularly for different newspapers and magazines on social and development issues, along with travel, food, and lifestyle. She has received many awards, including the Femina Women Super Achiever Award in 2018, the Maharani Gayatri Devi Award for Women of Excellence in 2014, and the Karamveer Puraskar in 2009 for her work as a journalist in creating social awareness and for being the best literary consultant in the country. She is the curator of Masala Chowk, a food court in the street food in Jaipur, and was a member of the Executive Council for Jawahar Kala Kendra. She is one of the founders and was the producer for the Mountain Echoes Festival of Arts, Literature and Culture from 2010 till 2019. Mita has conceptualized and produced the Women Up Summit and Soul Connect experiences. She is currently the literary director of the JCB Prize for Literature. In conversation with Sanjoy K. Roy. Sanjoy is an entrepreneur of the arts, the managing director of Team Book Arts, producers of the Jaipur Literature Festival and JLF and 25 other festivals across the world, and is the founder trustee of Salam Balak Trust, providing support services for street and working children in Delhi. Roy works closely with various industry bodies and the government on policy issues in the cultural sector in India and has lectured and collaborated with international universities. But before we move on to the session, we would like to invite Festival Co-Director Namita Gokhale to say a few words. Namita Gokhale is an award-winning writer and festival director. She is the author of 11 works of fiction and has written extensively on myth as well as the Himalayan region. Her acclaimed debut novel, Paro, Dreams of Passion, was published in 1984. A recent Jaipur Journals, published in 2020, was set against the backdrop of the vibrant Jaipur Literature Festival. Betrayed by Hope, a play on the life of Michael Madhusudan Dutt, was also published in 2020. The forthcoming novel, The Blind Matriarch, is her 20th book. A co-founder and co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival, Gokhale is committed to supporting translations and curating literary dialogues across languages and cultures. She was conferred the prestigious Centenary National Award for Literature by the Assam Sahitya Sabha in 2017 and has won various other literary awards. Namita, over to you.
Dear friends of literature, it's an honor and a privilege to welcome all of you festival wallahs from places far and near to discuss the challenges and the learnings of the last year. Literature is an anchor and a compass, and literature festivals hold together the community of writers and readers. They make books and ideas accessible across cultures and continents. The Jaipur Bookmark and Festival Directors Roundtable reach out to seek and share our conjoined experiences, our observations, our intuitions, our strategies and hard-learned lessons at this moment of enormous change and accelerated new opportunities. I look forward to listening in and learning from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Namita. Ladies and gentlemen, all these virtual roundtables will be available to view on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We present today, festivals are repositories of local talent, history, and the future. Ameena Saiyid, Brenda Miller, Kathrin Groon, Mita Kapur in conversation with Sanjoy K. Roy. Sanjoy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Suraj, and Ameena, Brinda, Mita, Kathrin. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. This last few months, in fact, a year and a half, has been very interesting as we have discussed with various festival directors from across the world the many issues that have sort of hindered or have helped expand our footprints in recent times due to the COVID situation. One of the problems that I think all of us are facing today in festivals, be it literature festivals or any other performing or visual arts festivals, is the problem of how do we make our festival unique from any other festival online. Today, access is not an issue. Whether it's the most famous author or a Booker Prize winner or a Nobel laureate, they're all accessible and available across festivals. So what sets your festivals apart? What is the responsibility of festivals in these ever-changing and ever-evolving times? We understand today that one of the chief things that many of us are fighting against is the narrative of hatred. All of us in our own individual ways try to use literature and the arts to be able to give people a perspective not just of history, but a perspective that allows for empathy, allows for understanding, and allows you to listen to the problems of our times. But within that, are there other responsibilities that festivals have? What is our responsibility to local talent? Do we need to nurture them? Are there enough platforms? How do we program those unsung heroes, those unsung writers and performers who need more so today a platform, not just as a means to air their profession or to be able to tell their story, but really a break from the drudgery of so much that we've got stuck into. So I'm going to start straight with Ameena Saiyid, who's joining us from Pakistan, from Karachi. Ameena, what are the challenges that you have faced in recent times in programming your festival, in sourcing a talent from not just locally, but across Pakistan, across the region? Pakistan today is at the center of yet another upheaval with what's happening in Afghanistan. And therefore, what do you feel is the responsibility of your festival in uncovering or providing a platform to air the many truths that we are confronted with? Ameena.
Thank you, Sanjoy. I think earlier the major problem that I faced when we were having in-person festivals was actually getting people to travel to Pakistan, because some years ago Pakistan had its own challenges. There were bombings across the country. There was a lot of violent events happening, and there were violent protests, and people were afraid to come. In fact, I remember a British journalist who had come to one of our festivals said that Karachi's answer to bombs is books, which was very heartwarming. So getting people to travel to Pakistan was very challenging. We had to persuade them that we will provide security and look after them. And things actually had become so bad that I remember in one of my welcome speeches, I said that this festival is an act of defiance because we are having it at such a dangerous time. And then somebody corrected me. They said, no, it's not an act of defiance. It's an act of optimism. So those were the challenges that we faced. And of course, there was an issue of visas. I don't know if you remember, Anupam Kher was coming to Karachi, and I was very, very keen. And he had very graciously accepted. And I was delighted because I thought that in Pakistan, he's a very controversial figure. And I thought that if he came here, because I found him utterly charming, and I thought if he came to Karachi, he spoke to an audience and interacted with them, I thought that kind of hostility would vanish if he came face to face with them. But alas, he didn't get a visa. And there was an outcry, and finally he did get a visa, but by then it was too late because he had made other plans. So fortunately, these issues in a way have been resolved by having these festivals online. But I felt throughout that we should get people to Pakistan who have views that may not be popular here. But it was important for them to come and air them and to discuss it with an audience. And that actually worked very well. In every instance, I found that the response was good. Even when, in one case, I remember Hanif Qureshi had come from the UK, and somehow he wasn't very popular, and his manner somehow put people off. But I think, in the course of the interaction, I just felt that the relationship with him and the audience had improved. And I just felt that, it's been worth it. But, throughout my efforts have been to provide a platform for newcomers, to the youth, and also to provide a new audience, not to somehow access people not from the major cities of Pakistan, but from outlying areas, for which I would try and arrange, get sponsors to arrange buses from villages across Sindh to come to our festivals. And that gave me a strong sense of reward.
Brinda, Ameena talked about young people. Now, Bombay in so many ways, or Mumbai in so many ways, is really the salad bowl of the new India. You have young people coming with dreams of the streets of Bombay being paved with gold, and them not just making their fortune, but perhaps also achieving fame in Bollywood. And you're also competing very squarely with the larger than life Bollywood image that Bombay sports or Bombay is known for. How do you manage to be able to do that in your programming or reflect that or move away from that? What is the sort of magic wand that you wave to make your festival so wonderful?
So I think Mumbai has a one big advantage, that all the stars live in Mumbai, but of course that doesn't apply in an online festival, which we had this year. And the big attraction at Kala Ghoda Arts Festival, when it is on ground, is that a lot of people come to see all these actors and actresses who just, kind of mingle with the crowd. They're part of the literature, they're part of the cinema section, they're part of the, workshop section. So it's a wonderful thing. But now that we've gone online, we didn't know how to present them. And I think what we tried to do was something different, which also worked for us, was that we kind of had a lot of interviews with the actors, but it wasn't about Bollywood. It was more about, say, for example, Diya Mirza talking about the environment, or, that kind of thing, which appealed to people because they want to see the same people in a different role online. They don't want to watch a movie of that actor and then have an interview. That, of course, is part of the programming that we did, but it was more about wanting to listen to what these actors and actresses. Also, I think the audience, as you said, is young. Yes, that's true. But I think they're young because I think the young audience can handle the digital medium much better than older people. That was a bit of a constraint, I felt, because, a lot of older people told us that they just couldn't log in for some reason. The internet was not... It's a bit like you have a choice when you have a physical festival, that you want to log in and watch it online, or you get stuck in a traffic jam on your way to Kala Ghoda at the physical festival. I much prefer, if you ask me, to be stuck in a traffic jam. But this kind of brought out a new audience, and we found a lot of younger people getting interested in things like classical music, Indian classical music. And I think this online medium has that advantage that you can reach out to a much wider audience. And as you said, Mumbai is like a salad, or it's like a melting pot. So we had, different kinds of interests, different kinds of, and I think it was a discovery. The online platform was a discovery. But if you ask me, I would go back to the physical one any day.
Totally. Absolutely. I think the more we are on Zoom, the more we yearn for that physical contact.
Yeah.
Kathrin, coming to you, the world's biggest book fair, where people come from across the world and they come to network, they come to be able to advance business, even if the business is transacted around little rights tables or in their hall spaces. How did you move from being this fabulous on-ground live festival in the last 2 years to becoming a virtual festival? And therefore, what happened to the literature program that you had begun over the last few years, which used to happen in that very beautiful space in the courtyard between the pavilions? Kathrin. Kathrin, you're on mute.
Apologies. So yes, as you said, the Frankfurt Buchmesse is a large international trade fair that has also a literary festival. And in pre-pandemic times, we attracted some 300,000 people on the premises in Frankfurt in the book fair week, and we had about 7,000 exhibitors coming to Frankfurt. And so that all we faced a major challenge, of course, with the pandemic in March 2022, and we had to transition into a digital both trade fair and festival. And I think one of our biggest aims was to really connect this international community online. So that's basically what we do in Frankfurt in the book fair week, is to bring everybody together, to have this huge gathering, to have the networking, to have the rights saved and everything flourishing and booming, and to sort of transcend that into digital. And we did two things. One thing is we concentrated on putting together a digital trade program that would entail a conference, that would really entail like the business coming together and having possibilities to exchange, also to do networking sessions. And we also transferred our book fest into digital. So we had a full Saturday full of program with international stars like Margaret Atwood and Edward Snowden and many other international stars, of course, participating. That was on one day, and that attracted 1.5 million users throughout the world. But the way to that festival was quite, as you all experienced, it was quite a challenge, yes.
Totally, in terms of numbers, is just so fascinating. I mean, I was looking at our monthly report from JLF, our Jaipur digital series, which is going on online, Kathrin. And you know, in physically, of course, international viewers to Jaipur used to be the United States, then UK, then Australia, Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE. In more recent years, it was Dubai. Digitally now, and for the 2020 Jaipur festival, we had 27.8 million viewers. But the present digital series, you know what's the third largest international viewership from? China. Our fifth largest international viewership is from Indonesia. Our sixth largest international viewership is from Uzbekistan. I mean, why Uzbekistan? I have no idea. And our fourth is Germany, and Germany in the main festival never used to register. So it's absolutely, it's so interesting in the sense that our festivals have been able to expand its reach, and so bewildering in terms of, so who's the festival for? I mean, we don't know Uzbeki audiences. We don't understand China audiences either, but they're coming to view. But I'll come back to that. Mita, again, in terms of challenges, you have been at the pioneer of that. You set up the whole translation program side by side with Jaipur at the Literature Festival. You set up Mountain Echoes in a completely different part in Bhutan, not necessarily known for literature or for literary content. You had no idea what you were doing, and yet you were able to establish a really successful brand, Mountain Echoes. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to turn that around be able to address the local communities there, be able to eke out new writing from Bhutan and the changes that you saw during the course of the festival?
Thank you, Sanjoy. Can I just say one thing at the start, which is very unconnected from Mountain Echoes, is when I was watching the JLF video playing, there was this heartbeat that kind of just went up, and there was that yearning for that same energy and the same pulse, and I was missing JLF so much. And I was just kind of recounting everything, even the dust arising from our feet when the crowds thronged that area of the palace, just to say that you and JLF are being missed even more right now as I speak. And while I'm sitting in Jaipur, it becomes even more difficult for me to know that, we missed 2020, 21, and yeah, we know that something of a hybrid festival will come up next year. So that's like praying for you, Sanjoy. More power to you. Having set up Mountain Echoes, I'll be very honest and unashamedly admit that the first look I had at my very first venue, which was the Tarayana Foundation, can you believe it? It was through 2 tiny glass panels, and I just had a peep of the hall. That was my first access. And it was just like, okay, we'll do it here. It was, I didn't have the chance to go around and understand the lay of the land or look at the amphitheater inside the Tarayana Foundation. Similarly, the first trip to Bhutan, I was introduced to Kunzang Choden, who was the only and the first woman writer to be published outside of Bhutan in different European languages. I met a couple of other writers from there, and my first meeting with them, I sensed their ferociousness to guard their culture, their loyalty to their country. I sensed the deep commitment to their storytelling traditions, which is quite oral like ours. I also sensed a reticence to speak about their work. So for me to dig out and to discover local representation, people who wrote who followed their local literary traditions, their dialects, even to work with their translations was extremely, it wasn't that they were lacking in content. It was just the basic shyness and the humility they have as a people to speak about their work, which was more of a challenge for me. So, it was like a constant chiseling with that kind of a tuck, 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 very gently telling them it's okay to speak about your stories. It's okay to speak about your book. And I've also got memories where I actually stood in, there were just 2 bookstores that time in Thimphu, and I went way back before the festival started in 2010. My first couple of visits, I would stand and, kind of literally go bookshelf by bookshelf and pull out books to see, and then try and contact the writers through various people, and then meet them physically and convince them that they need to speak. And the very fact that Her Majesty Ashidoji Wangchuk, the Royal Queen Mother, was the patron of the festival, is still the patron of the festival, was going to be very much a part of the festival, would make them even more, would really quieten them down. So for me, it was just not discovering their storytelling traditions, their various languages, their literature in Dzongkha. It was also about convincing them that we share the Himalayan belt. We share a lot of common denominators within our living cultures. Our mythologies, our oral traditions, just to name a couple. That exchange of ideas, that exchange of creativity, the cultural osmosis will only lead to further enriching of our writing traditions, our speaking traditions, even poetry and what have you. And it was just a slow morphing and opening them up, but it led to us discovering the most delightful storytellers, the most delightful talent in terms of music, in terms of theater, in terms of even visual art. So we went multi-pronged. We kind of etched away at discovering talent from all fields of the aesthetics. And that is how the festival just slowly grew. At a point in time that after 4 years or 5 years, maybe, yeah, the halfway mark, I could proudly say that we had doubled or tripled the number of Bhutanese people speaking at the festival from different fields. And I had consciously worked at making sure that they were, like if there were 80 speakers at the festival, at least 60 odd would be from Bhutan, from all over Bhutan. And just the other 23 would be from India and the international community. So we did have a healthy smattering of all kinds of voices. Yes.
I mean, I'm going to hold that thought because I'm going to come back to you, Mita, in terms of the changes that you saw in the society, not just about the shyness, but, about the importance of knowledge, but hold on to that. Brinda, Mita in the beginning of her answer talked about, peeping into the location through these two panels. Location, and as all of us know, is one of the cornerstones to the success of any festival. And Brinda, Kala Ghoda is Kala Ghoda. It is the historic district of Fort Bombay, where in earlier, at least when I used to be in school in Cathedral, which was a stone's throw away from Kala Ghoda, it was the center of our universe. How has that impacted your programming? And the second question to that is, again, going back to something that Mita said, is that in terms of young people, how do you reflect their traditions, their culture, their voice? And we know today that their voice is very different from the voices of the 90s or even the 2000s. Because today, the haiku, as we've seen it in a poetic form, is the Twitter chat, or is the Instagram post, or is the other one, the TikTok form. Do these, as an artist yourself, do these find reflection in your overall programming?
Let me start, let me go backwards. When it comes to young people, Sanjoy, you forgot about selfies. We get a lot of flack from people who say, oh, there's so many young people when they come straight from college and all they do is stand in front of the installations and take selfies. And, we get fed up. There are other people who say, we can hardly move. There's hardly any place to walk. But the point is, I think that is the success. And if you take selfies and if you post it on social media, which is what a lot of young people want to do nowadays, is that it's a memory that you have forever. And otherwise, the older Kala Ghodas, earlier Kala Ghodas, we hardly had any so many memories. We used to have a professional photographer who would, kind of take pictures and put it in the newspapers. I think social media has made that huge impact on young people, and they are drawn to the festival for that reason. They may not come to listen so much to the music, they do, but that's, like by the way, or they come for the dance programs, or they come for theater. A lot of people come for theater also, literature, and all the art kind of events that are there. We can cover everything, absolutely everything. But we have a lot of, the growing audience is children. And actually one of the USPs of Kala Ghoda Arts Festival is the location. And nowhere else is a street shut for 9 days anywhere. It's just not allowed. But because we've been doing it for so many years, I think the authorities can't say no to us. It's like that. And the popularity is, of course, as everybody knows, it's a huge popular thing where people come, they look at the stalls, the craft stalls, art stalls, and then they look at the installations. So that entire street is shut for 9 days. It looks a bit like, the background. Kathrin has this background of the trees and the street, and that kind of a look. And of course, we use the museum gardens. We use the David Sassoon Library for Literature. these are all kind of locations which are not used otherwise ever, because nobody is allowed to use them. We are the only ones. So that itself gives it a, the garden, the outdoor space is fantastic, especially dance outdoors, music outdoors. We use the, Asiatic library steps for the music, where people just sit on the steps and we have a music performance. So we are the only festival that is allowed to do that. And that's the reason why also it's such a success, because the energy is fantastic. It's young and it's getting younger and younger and younger. In fact, old people complain that, we can't come to the festival anymore because they get pushed around. And earlier we used to worry about that, but now we're not worried. We just said, just whoever wants to come, please come and please enjoy yourselves. And everything is for free. So that's the best part, You get the most fantastic Bollywood performance, and it's you don't have to buy a ticket. You just have to wait in a long queue, perhaps. And of course, many people are willing to do that. And you get to see the best of the best. And a lot of performers also are extremely good about it, because Mumbai is a very giving city. Actually, the audience is fantastic, and so are the performers. They know that we're doing it for free. I mean, they know that we're doing it for the people. So, the energy is good, everybody's smiling, and everyone is happy.
Kathrin, Brinda, and Mita both talked about young people and about how that is a focus and a very important focus. Now, I know at the Frankfurt Book Fair, I've strolled through many of the places where you've got so much of work around children. Is that also reflected in your literature program? Is there space for young writing, for sci-fi writing, for young adults, etc.?
Yes, thank you. We do have programming for the younger generation, of course, as they are incredibly important to us. And we have a program for young authors that we have launched a couple of years ago, and we also transitioned it into digital. And we had we were extremely pleased with receiving so many submissions for it, and for really having the people engage with this contest that we had from Frankfurt Book Fair. And of course, also at the Frankfurt Book Fair, at the festivals, we see that the young people are really coming in droves to see their stars, to engage with their. We invite YouTube stars and influencers and TikTok stars, and of course, in the past years also the cosplay has been a huge part of the Frankfurter Buchmesse on the weekend, with the German cosplay championship taking place at Frankfurt. So we have a huge number of young people coming to the fair, and of course we are working on engaging them in programs as well.
Do you see the Frankfurt Book Fair for 2021? How is it going to be? Again, a digital offering, or has it already been a digital offering, or is it going to be part of it physical? How are you seeing 2021 and 22?
Yeah, so the Frankfurter Buchmesse 2021 will be our 73rd Frankfurt Book Fair. So, and it's shaping up quite well. Right now we are planning to have it on the premises in Frankfurt. It will, of course, be a smaller fair due to the hygiene restrictions that we have in place, of course, because that's our first aim, to have a really safe event for everybody. But we do have, it will be, we have a huge stage in the historical Festhalle at Frankfurter Buchmesse, where we have a program for the entire week. And we have exhibitors from over 60 countries coming to Frankfurt this year. Many of them will also man their stands with people who are already in Germany. So they might not travel to Germany, but they already have the embassy or staff from the consulats who are actually taking care of their stand. And so we will also have digital. We will not do the Frankfurter Buchmesse without digital. So this has become an integral part of our programming. So all the literature program will be live streamed, so you can view it from all over the world. And the trade program will take place a little in advance of the Frankfurter Buchmesse, so people will have time to use Frankfurt to actually meet and gather and do all these important things.
I'm going to come back to you about how new festivals, at least in Europe, are doing this 24-hour round festival. I'll come to you. Ameena, I hope your internet is stable again. You know, I think one of the most fascinating things about Pakistan today is the quality of writing that's been coming out, especially in the last decade or so. Many of your writers have really achieved huge success internationally. But tell us a little bit about the different languages in which people are writing and about the situation around translation that you're seeing across Pakistan and the access to these stories that otherwise don't find a space, in festivals. Ameena, you're on mute.
Sanjoy, absolutely right. I think the scene for creative writing especially is very vibrant in Pakistan. And many of our young authors are now globally known, people like Umar Shahid Hamid, Kamla Shamsi, Mohsin Hamid, and so on, Hanif Qureshi. But, I'm delighted to say that a lot of young authors are emerging, and they are really writing some very original and captivating books. There's a lot of writing happening in Urdu across Pakistan, particularly, of course, from Karachi, but also from the Punjab. A lot of novels being written. Unfortunately, the scene with regard to translations, I think, could be better. I mean, I know of a Baloch writer in Quetta who has written over 100 novels in Baloch. And unfortunately, not one has been translated. So I think that's why we really need to work very hard. Because I think it's really translation that makes, that makes writers known internationally, and that gives them a wide audience. I mean, I can give the example of Qurratola and Heather, my aunt, who all her life she would not allow her books to be translated. And it was only very late in life when and even then she translated them herself, before I think C.M. Naeem or somebody else was allowed to do that. I really feel that she would have got some international literary prize had she allowed her books to be translated. So while the scene is very vibrant here, I think those writing in English are very well known across the world. And unfortunately, those writing in other languages, Sindhi, Punjabi, Baloch, Urdu, are less known, which is sad. And I do feel that translation is something that we need to focus on.
Mita, you've been at the forefront of translations. I mean, not just as the director of the JCB Prize, but really the first initiative that you took in CIHI. Your agency, the CIHI agency, also looks at translations in a big way. Tell us a little bit about how that's progressed and how do festivals sort of handle translations in today's day and time? Is there enough of a platform? Should there be a growing platform for these translations, for these new voices that are emerging because they haven't been translated into a language which is accessible?
Sanjoy, it's strangely reminded me of the first translation initiative we took as Translating Bharat, which was one of the most enriching learning experiences where we brought translators from the world over and from India on one platform in Jaipur and put them together with publishers and with other market forces to discuss not just quality of translations, but also what can be done to further branch out and proliferate. What I feel is happening, especially in the Indian context, is a lot of good work is happening in translations in different regions of the country. It's again the richness and the diversity that we have also becomes a challenge for us. It's because, let's say, people are writing fantastic literature in the northeast of our country, and for them to have access to mainstream publishing and make sure that people are scouting for that literature. So that dialogue and that kind of conduit is something that has improved drastically, I would say, over the years, but a lot more still needs to be done. So at CIE, we are constantly looking at bridging this gap as an agency, and we have worked with more than about 10 to 12 languages and translations within the country. We're also working at cross-translating between languages, not just into English. I won't say that we made terrific headway there, but we are constantly at it. It takes time. Translations, as it is an art. It's just not about transliterating. It is about recreating that book, and it requires as much talent, as much patience. I think even more labor than writing the original work. I have that much respect for translations and translators. So in that sense, yes, a lot more work needs to be done, but we are also seeing some fantastic leaps being taken in the field of translations, whether it's from Marathi or Gujarati or Oriya, Bengali, the South Indian languages. There is tremendous work being done, and it is coming to the forefront in mainstream publishing. Having said that, as I said, the challenge that India, the positive and the negative comes together is we need more and more platforms to give them more and more representation. I think JLF has done a fantastic job in more programming to have so many languages being spoken about at so many different sessions when the physical festival was on. And I noticed so many sessions last year as well when you went digital. And I think there are festivals in different regions, like the Kalinga festival or the Patna festival. I'm sure it's getting revived now. And there are festivals like the Hyderabad one or the one in Chennai. They're all working at making sure that the languages do get spoken about, whether they're in translation or just, put forward the way they are. Like in Bhutan, I remember, because Dzongkha is something that is completely out of our reach. We used to have sessions in Dzongkha, but we made the effort of making sure that either we had the session, some content of the session transcribed and put on every seat in translation in English so that people could connect with it. Or when technology progressed and we could get that kind of infrastructure in place, we would actually have the translations running in ticker roll on the screen so that everyone in the audience could make out what was being said. And we actually used to manage to do that. Even a simple act like that would make the audiences connect with what they were saying in Dzongkha. So yeah, but the more we do, I think there is still more to do.
Totally, Mita. In fact, JLF Words Are Bridges, which is our digital series on translations, etc., we've been very, very surprised at the kind of traction it's got, because we don't just do languages across India, but we've been also doing a lot of the European Union languages. Kathrin, going back to the whole translation thing, Frankfurter Buchmesse is, the rights tables are legendary. Much of the translation work across the world gets traded, at least between the East and what we know as Europe or Commonwealth countries, gets traded at Frankfurt. Do you see this? Has this been growing, and has that resulted in the trade changing? And how then does that reflect in your literary programming?
Yeah, so of course, Frankfurt has in the past always been a trade where the selling of rights and translation rights has been integral to our DNA, really, and the Literary Agent Center is booming, and I think what makes this really, what sets us really, what makes us really different from other trade fairs is that if somebody travels to Frankfurt, they can actually meet their partners from all over the world in just 1 week, and that saves them a lot of travels because they actually see them in Frankfurt. Now, I think what also is becoming more and more important is that it's not only about translation rights, but it's also about adapting the material into film formats, into TV series, into games, and in all other formats. Audiobooks, of course, has always also been booming. So I think this is what Frankfurt is used for, is to really establish the context, to meet people from all over the place to actually do this sort of business. And we have always been encouraging, and we've set up a lot of programs also for literary translations, or for translations and conferences and all that, to sort of to support this this important field of business. And in our program, of course, we have a lot of international authors who are coming to Frankfurt because they know they have the German readership, or because they know they are promoting their books also through their visit in Frankfurt. And we have also on the trade side, there are quite a lot of programs for literary translators.
Brinda, let me ask you a gender question. I mean, this is one of the, I think, first directors panels where we've had only women. Do women program differently? That's one. And the second corollary to that is that in terms of achieving gender parity in panels, in discussions, in conversations, what should be and can be the responsibility of a festival director?
So actually, that's a very good question, Sanjoy. And I was in fact going to ask you, that was today a conscious decision to have all women, or did it just happen? But the fact is that I think women have a different kind of a creative mind, and they think differently. I think they're more sensitive to certain issues, and that's the reason why they also, I think it started many years ago with women having more time. It's no longer like that, but yes, it was like that. That's why they kind of volunteered to be part of the festival. I began like that. I was a volunteer for quite a few years. No, never mind, quite a few years. I'm still a volunteer, actually. And it's just that then, they get kind of passionate about it. Men look at it differently. Yes, they are more, in some ways, they are far more practical. In some ways, they, get straight to the matter, and which I find women think a little more about, what people will like. Men, I don't think, it doesn't mean that men are not good at, I'm not trying to say that I'm a feminist in that sense. But over the years, my experience is that we've had a lot of volunteers. And when we do get men as volunteers, they are usually lawyers, or they are chartered accountants, or they are even doctors, or they are part of they are economists, because, they find that their professions are extremely dull, and they want to do something which is different from what they do. Whereas women, when they come, they're already creative people who have come to volunteer and come in to help us. And I think they also have a lot more interest in what they can do for younger people, because I think they're a little motherly in that sense. And they look at, doing a lot more for children, which is a good thing, because at least our festival, I think it is now we're gearing up to invite more kids as audience, and the children also appreciate our festival a lot more than the adults do. And so I think that's the difference really between the two. On the other hand, we do have a lot of professionals also who are women who come and help. They are also chartered accountants, and over 20 years, I've seen a big change in the kind of people who come and help us at the festival. But what men are really good at is kind of on ground. I feel they're excellent. I think they're really good at the tough situations where it comes to dealing with authorities, dealing with matters of security and things like that. But otherwise, I think women do very well at festivals, especially as festival directors. And I'm not praising myself. I'm just saying that generally. So.
No, it's fascinating because, we've seen, at least in Jaipur, that we have as many, in fact, we have more women colleagues who actually look after everything from law and all the issues with law, which obviously we have many, as well as with the police and security. And they tend to have a completely different way of handling it and perhaps being able to pour oil on troubled waters in a slightly different way than men and some of our male colleagues. So it's very interesting to hear you say that. Ameena, a political question for you. With the growing, with the evolving situation in Afghanistan, your neighbor, will that put more pressure on the way on women in Pakistan and the way that they're viewed and the kind of freedoms that you all have? And therefore, will that be reflected in festivals, in their writing?
Yes, that is something to worry about, Sanjoy, because clearly what's happening in Afghanistan is very well known here. But in a way, people do feel that the Taliban now are not the same as the Taliban of 96 to 2001. And also, the people of Afghanistan are not the same, especially the young ones who have been born, the millennials. They have seen a different country, they have had different experiences. Girls have been going to school and universities. And I think that is something that can't be turned back. I think Pakistan is going through a crisis, and I would not say it's because of what's happened in Afghanistan. But you must have read in the last few months, across the country, there have been some terrible attacks on women. A woman was murdered in cold blood in Islamabad, and women are being attacked in public places. And I think the reasons for that are, in a way, they are sort of feudal and tribal sort of mindsets that prevail. And I think women, on the one hand, are claiming their space, and they're not being kept back. As you know, the Aurat March has proved to be very powerful and very popular, but every time it is criticized and attacked. And yet every year it gets bigger, and it is happening in more and more cities. So I think women now in Pakistan cannot be held back. I know they're going through a difficult time, but they are claiming their space and they're resisting. And I think in a way, rather than the status of women impacting in Afghanistan, impacting the status of women here, I have a feeling there's going to be some impact, from Pakistan to Afghanistan. I think it's the status of women and how they are, despite all the odds, they are holding their positions. I think that's going to have a very positive impact on the status of women in Afghanistan.
Mita, it's not that women aren't attacked in India. Now, wearing your GCB director's hat, have you seen an emerging new kind of voice which looks at LGBTQ, the whole transgender movement, and of course women? And within your system in the JCB Prize, is there an effort to balance or at least bring about gender parity, or is that not a concern at all? And is it just excellence in writing?
The writer is looked at in terms of the voice, the plot, how the book is reading, and whether or not it's a translation. I think it is more on the excellence of writing and more, it's not about balancing the long list or the short list with women and men being equal, because the basic principle of the prize is to award excellent literature. It's not about awarding excellent women writers or excellent men writers. And personally, I feel as director and as a literary agent also, in all my various roles, I've uh, always fought for human dignity first. The individual is more important. It's not about the binary situation. We need to get more gender fluid. We need to step over and above this binary argument, because as much as there is a place on the table for men, as much is there a place for women as well. It's not that we never had that place. We have that place on the table. It is ours, and we don't need to raise our voices to stake a claim at it. It is ours. It is for us. What I'm seeing in terms of more and more themes and stronger voices coming from women writers, yes, definitely there is a soaring of imagination. There is a vast exploration of different themes coming from different regions of the country. So I feel that the representation is more rich that way, that there are just not certain states being represented, but like this time we've had writing coming to us from over 16 states. It may be translations, it may be in English originally, but the point is representation and inclusivity has happened from more and more states, and more voices are getting heard. So that is what we are looking at. And it's, yes, of course, I really would want this whole gender debate to be more fluid and more inclusive. And we need to rise above the whole binary argument.
Kathrin, Mita talked about representation. I mean, India is like Europe, hundreds of different states, different cultures, different languages, different dialects. Do you make a conscious choice to be inclusive, representing all of the different languages, or as many of the different languages and dialects at the literature program, at the Frankfurter Buchmesse? How do you manage the contradictions? Because finally, Europe today is also continuing to evolve. The European Union is continuing to evolve. Members are leaving, members are joining. There's strife, there is war in your neighborhood, or there's always some kind of tension. How do you manage that at the fair in the literature space? You're on mute, Kathrin.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjoy. So I think in Frankfurt this year the main program is under the title "How do we want to live?" This is a question that we all ask ourselves, facing all these challenges in all fields of life. So the question will be in all the literary programming and also in the panel discussions is what choices do we make? How do we how will we live more? How will we be more? How can we be? How can we be more environment conscious, and how can we be more thoughtful with the resources we use and all that? And of course, the language in fact in the digital programming, it will be mostly in German and English, of course, because these are the languages who have crystallized to be widely understood. But we do as Frankfurt, you know that we in normal years we go at about 17 to 20 book fairs worldwide, and we have the German collective stands in many countries worldwide. And what we have in the past we have done is we always have the programming that is made at the international book fairs is always to match a German author with the regional author, and to really have engaging dialogues between the countries, and to bring all these different people together, and to actually discuss all the things that are important to in their regions.
I'm going to go straight to closing comments because I've got a signal saying we're running out of time. Brinda, crystal grazing into 2022. What do you see ahead of us, given the pandemic still being around for the next few years? What's the new reality? What are your challenges? How are you viewing it?
So I think we have to look at everything now differently. And even though everyone does say that we're going to get over it, and then, once everyone is vaccinated and we're going to go back to normal, but I'm a little bit worried about my festival because it's a very crowded festival, and I'm more worried that they give us permissions or not. I'm not worried that I won't be able to handle it. Definitely we will if they allow us to. I would love to go back in, maybe if not in 2022, maybe we'll change the dates. Every year we have it in February. Maybe we'll just push the festival a little forward. But yeah, I mean, just to keep the flag flying. In February, we'll have an online festival for sure. A lot of people advise us on the hybrid model, but I don't know. Again, like I said, the festival is a very outdoor festival where we have to depend on government to give us permissions. If they give us permissions, we will definitely do it. But I doubt they will. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sounding a little pessimistic, but I think it's better to be safe and not plan something which will not be possible. I am not for a hybrid model at all, to tell you the truth, because we have a sort of audience which is mostly they are like the common man, and they don't understand, that when they need to be on the street and when they need to watch something on the net. And we had that problem this year where a lot of people started going on the street because we had announced the festival, and they thought that the festival had begun, and they said, but where is it? After kind of letting everyone know that it's online. So I'm trying not to do that and just trying to stick to a digital festival for February. That is the plan as of now. And otherwise, it'll be extremely difficult also to organize. So it's better we just plan and think, in a certain way and not change our minds about that.
Totally. Of course, we have our plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E for Jaipur Literature Festival in its many avatars, but fingers crossed and best wishes, Brinda. Ameena, future thoughts? You're on mute.
Well, Sanjoy, actually, I'm very excited because in November, I am planning, or actually we'll be having a collaboration with the Bradford Literature Festival. So Adab Festival and Bradford Festival are organizing an online, well, it'll be hybrid in the sense that the speakers will all be, in a physical space, as will the audience of that village or town wherever it's held. But hopefully in the international audience, Bradford Literature Festival's audience and other festivals' audience, they will attend online. And I'm very excited because this time I'm not organizing the festival. Neither is Saima, Aslam or Bradford. We've actually trained for the last 3 months. We've been training 10 women, 5 from the UK, 5 from Pakistan, and from areas like, Bhakkar, Liari, Gwadar, that are not the sort of, predictable places for festivals. And we have trained these young women to organize their own festivals for their own audiences and get their own artists and speakers. So there will be, I think, about 15 or 20 sessions. And I'm very excited because I just feel that we have to make festivals a movement across Pakistan. And not just focus it in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, which is what we've been doing, but go to remote areas where an audience from that area can attend it. And I'm also very excited that we are going back to a festival in London next summer, and my partners in London are confident. They feel that in June we'll be able to organize it effectively. For the other festival in Karachi, I'm less confident. We normally have it in February, but my plan is to have it at the end of the year, in the winter of 2022. Hopefully by then we will all have been vaccinated and it will work out. So that's the plan.
Ameena, we'd love to welcome some of these young new directors who you've been mentoring in the next directors roundtable. So do please share whoever you feel can be part of that, both from the UK and from Pakistan. And we would love to welcome them, hear their voices as well, and the challenges that they see. And of course, we've been in touch with your partners in London. We've coordinated dates for 2022 already. So that JLF is wrapping up in touch. Amita? Mita?
Yes, Sanjoy.
Future gazing?
Sorry?
Future gazing.
Future gazing, I would really like to let everyone know that, echoing what Ameena has just said, we have handed Mountain Echoes is now called Bhutan Echoes, Drukyal's Literature Festival. We've got a bright new team of 4 directors from Bhutan there and a team of advisors, and they are taking the festival forward from 2022 spring in its new avatar. And well, we worked with all 4 of them in some capacity or the other. 2 were already directors with us while we were doing Mountain Echoes, and 2 new ones have been added, but they were there as advisors before. So I think I would love to introduce them to JLF.
Love to have them on online in our next series. So please do put us in touch or send us their names. Yes. And best wishes with this. This is very exciting that the legacy will continue in the way that it does. So thank you so much, Mita. Kathrin, crystal gazing.
Yes, so while we had 2 years of transition now, we were still able to sort of hold the fair. We had a smaller fair last year in the Festhalle with a lot of programming, and we had our book fest in the city and digital programming. And this year we are aiming to have the fair again on the fairgrounds and a physical program in the city of Frankfurt. And we do actually look into the future, and we do, I'm pretty convinced that next year in October 2022, we will be able to welcome everybody back in Frankfurt. And I do hope that things have gone back to normal then, and that we will also expand our literary festival throughout the city and in the region of Frankfurt.
Well, best wishes with that, Kathrin. Look forward to being there and continuing our dialogue. Kathrin, Mita, Brinda, Ameena, thank you so much for being part of our Directors Roundtable and our ongoing series. We look forward to welcoming all of these wonderful people that you've talked about back on the next roundtable. More strength to each of you. And as Brinda said, women tend to do it differently. Totally true. Best wishes. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Suraj, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjoy.
Thank you, Kathrin and Mita, for such an excellent session. Thank you, Sanjoy, for staying so very well. And thank you all for watching and being a great audience. We hope you all enjoyed this conversation and will join us for another such roundtable where directors from the world will join us to discuss and share their views. Thank you once again, and see you soon.
In these times during COVID, when we're all sitting at home, it's sort of like a ray of light that we get to watch these amazing sessions when we can't all be together. It certainly brightens up my evenings.
आज पेंडेमिक में हम डिजिटली जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल कर रहे हैं, और मुझे लगता है कि हमारे सामने श्रोता नहीं है, हम आपस में बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उस फील को, उस उमंग को महसूस कर सकते हैं कि हजारों लाखों लोग हमसे जुड़े हुए हैं, हमको सुन रहे हैं, और कहीं ना कहीं कोई सार्थक हस्तक्षेप हो रहा है.
People who came online to view and listen to our incredible speakers from across the world, we were able to continue in our tradition of ensuring the free flow of knowledge and information.